Let's talk about Lego railroads, specifically integrating them into a modular Lego city like we have here. Now, we've already kind of gone through our layout, and we have a railroad that does a ring around the inside of our city. And we've done some preliminary work with the layout in terms of creating some railroad crossings, which we've shown you guys. We want to spend some time today looking at some of the other pieces of integrating this into the landscaping and some of the challenges that are created. For example, like when you have a curved piece of railroad track and getting that to work into the modified mill system that we have with all of these angles on this track can be very challenging. And I've had to jump through a few hoops to make that work here. And we'll show you a little bit more about that. We'll start with the easy stuff. Here is a 16 by 16 landscaping plate with a straight piece of track. I like the reddish brown plates underneath the track. I think it differentiates it from the green grass on either side. And thankfully, I've got a decent amount of reddish brown plates to make it work. Then we use a couple of pins and we start to lock these pieces together, and you get kind of an idea of what a long piece of track looks like. Again, I like the reddish brown underneath the track. The only drawback is losing a lot of pieces. As we all know, a lot of the older reddish brown plates are very brittle, and you can see here I already broke one. Here's another one that broke when I put it on, but it looks like I'm going to be able to keep it here. It's not going to shatter anymore. Now that we have a couple sections ready to go, we snap it into place. And since this is a city crossing, we got to add the sidewalk going across. So we've added that on this one. We'll be adding those on all of them. Also need to go back and add some crossing signals. Don't have the pieces to build those like I want quite yet. More to come. But now it's time for the real challenge and how we are going to connect that end to that end with the curved track, keep the brown plates underneath when all of these angles on this track are not going to connect. First thing I've done is built this, just a combination of mostly reddish brown tiles, but with some plates that have connection points only where the angles line up, also on the two ends. All right, that slides down in there like that. And there we go. We have continued that reddish brown underneath the tracks all along the curve. Here is just a closer look at how all those reddish brown tiles and plates come together so you can properly connect a 90-degree turn with that Lego track. The problem you run into here, though, is when you connect the track we've already built to our big green plate here, and you want to start adding the brown plates, this pattern over that we just created over there, put it on here. Problem is the brown plates need to go down one. Basically, we're going to have to tear this thing up, which is going to be a bit of a challenge. See, what happens is this plate has to be down one for this to connect. That brown plate has to go just like this. And I didn't get the connection. There we go. Let's see. We're going to have to figure out how to put all of this brown at that level. With how we build these plates, there is nothing underneath here. Now, to make this work, what I don't want to do is rip up this grid that I already have built. Again, because we want to keep these. These are fine. And also, you could, in theory, drop each of these plates down by one plate. But again, I'm trying to avoid that because I think I'm going to be getting into using a lot of pieces. And I want to keep our grid together. And a key part of the grid is I've got these 1x4 Technics connected all the way around the outside so we can connect it to other landscaping plates. If you lowered everything, you wouldn't be able to use those Technic plates there. So my alternative, I built this, which underneath it, that looks kind kind of nuts, but really what's happened here is I've got a bunch of these 6x8 plates. And what's happened here, this is 4 of them oriented kind of like a clock like this with a 2x2 in the middle. What's happened here is this has created a 14x14 plate with these plates underneath that are holding it all together. And what happens is this is going to fit just like this inside that grid. So we're going to be able to keep all of those pieces. And what I've done then is I've built 5 of these special grids that we're going to use to fill in all of the areas on this big plate where the track and everything needs to go down to make room for our brown plates. One thing I forgot on that earlier step, just got a bunch of these little 1x1 round plates. What we just need to do is strengthen the corners on these. So what I've done is added those to each of the corners on that plate. We'll go around and fix all that. And you can see this is really strong once you add those. So now we've transferred all of the brown tiles and plates and the track over onto our big green plate. And we go through and just add a few more of the bright green plates to cover up the blue parts of the frame that are still showing. And there we have it. We have successfully integrated a brown plate underneath our track going through here. Now, there's still a little bit of subtle differences in level. You can see there in the green plates. I'm going to hold off on addressing those until we have a better idea what's going to go in this space. Now, I think this turned out pretty well, but I'm not sure if I want to replicate it elsewhere in the city. And we've got a couple, 3 more curves. Here's one for sure we got to address. Now, these other 2 curves, the track kind of winds underneath the highway and comes back out. So I'm not sure if we didn't do anything with that. But in the meantime, I'd love to hear you guys' ideas on what to do with this green space.